Okay, previously we looked at how do you build visuals for qualitative data. And we saw that we can use pivot tables when our data is qualitative. But what happens if you have quantitative data, numbers, like this? These are time between arrivals. So if someone arrives to a bank and then 1.337 minutes later someone arrives, and then after that person arrives, 1.355 minutes later, someone arrives. So these are time between arrivals or inter-arrival times. If I do the same thing and build a pivot table of this, and take that and put in an arrival time here, it's kind of a weird thing. First of all, we went from about 300 data points, and we've only lost one. We've only collapsed this down to 299 data points. So there's not a lot of learning. Previously, when we took this data, we were able to collapse this data down to 6 rows. Well, we want to be able to do the same thing when you have histograms, or excuse me, quantitative data. So pivot tables don't work. The other thing is that when you drop this in and look at the count of that, and draw a picture of this, it's not very meaningful. It does not help. That doesn't give us any information. It shows all these time arrivals happen exactly once, except for these 5 that happened twice. So not a lot of information gleaned. So we don't want to use pivot tables when our data is quantitative. So what do? We want to do this differently. So let me get rid of all this because this is not correct. If we have quantitative data, we don't want to use pivots, we want to use histograms. And there's several different ways to build a histogram in Excel. The easiest way, which is what I'm going to show you in this video, is you just highlight the data. I'm going to get back up to the top, but I have the data highlighted, and then I go under Insert, and this is a new feature, or it's fairly new, a stat chart, and this is the one you want. You do not want this. Don't do this. This is the one you want. This is a histogram of inter-arrival times. So what we built was a histogram of inter-arrival times. So what did we just present? What this is telling us is that we had 129 of these data points where the inter-arrival time was between 0.008 and 2.308 minutes. So you can see that this one, 1.337, it would be thrown into this bucket, this bin, because 1.337 is between 0.008 and 2.308. This one, this 18.749, would drop into this bin. And if you notice, there's exactly 1 or 2. So that's one of the 2 right there. This 4.568, it would drop into this bin. So what you see, the story, the picture tells you that these inter-arrival times, most of the inter-arrival times are between 0.008 minutes and 2.3. That's what happens most often. And then 2.308 to 4.6 happens next most often. The picture can change. The picture is the picture. If I would go over here to, let's look at some exam results. Here's some exam data. If I did the same thing and built a histogram of that because it's quantitative data, there's one. So the picture can look like whatever. The picture can look like whatever. It's showing that most of the scores were between 80 and 96. I could do that with the second exam. I could again do the same thing, highlight the data up here, build a histogram. So there's another one. If I go to this pay time, which again, it's quantitative data, it's numbers, highlight everything up at the top, build a histogram like that. That happens pretty often. So what we see is that most of the pay times were between 6.8 and 20.2. That's what happened most often. And then we had as little as 10 and as much as 30 days to pay. Okay, that's the introduction to histograms, which you use when your data is quantitative and not qualitative. Thanks.